at a point Luke was gonna have like a semi-affair, not affair, like like a relationship with a lady. Hey, thanks for making time to chat.
Of course. Well, thank you for talking to me about the show. Well, I'm Russ Milheim from the Direct. And I've seen the first 8 episodes of the final season. And it's pretty great stuff so far.
Thanks.
And yeah, I want to talk about those first seven. You've been with Luke for a long time. So over the course of these 6 seasons, what do you feel have been, the biggest changes for him on a character level?
Um, I think there has been a steady degradation, I think, in his mental health. I think it's one of the things. I think he's more desperate now. He's more against the wall. He's kind of, especially in the last 2 seasons in particular, faced a little bit more of the actual violence which can happen. And so I think that's affected him a lot. It's like it's now or never.
Was there any like change or evolution with the character that kind of surprised you over this journey? That you were just kind of like, oh wow, I didn't really expect that direction, but it worked so well.
Not really. I mean, I've been waiting, wanting for him to be more kind of like physically involved in the resistance. But at the same time, I thought it was really interesting, that kind of frustration, that kind of sense of helplessness, which is actually the truth of most people's situations. Like as we know now, there's so many refugees, people from war-torn areas, innocent individuals caught up, and they don't have the power to just go in and topple a government. So they have to deal with that. And so I really liked the representation that had that kind of realism. But I was excited, especially this season, that he gets to get his hands dirty a bit.
Episode six or yeah, episode 6 ended with, that reveal that, Nick betrayed June and the entire rebellion. And when June does come back with the news, Luke is pretty quick to anger. Can you break down what exactly Luke is feeling in that moment?
Like he doesn't know all the details of it anyway, but I think it's quite hard. As much as like Luke understands that, when June was out there, she needed some sort of, connection, and Nick provided a sense of security and safety and also excitement and love, like I think he understands that aspect to it. I think it's quite hard if you're a victim of the Taliban. It's quite hard to. One of my lights has gone off. We've gone to the moody section of the interview. The Yeah, if one is like a victim of the Taliban, I think it's quite hard to imagine that you could fall in love with a member of the Taliban. And as much as someone tells you, well, it's not really a member of the firm, but, and oh well, you're high up in the Taliban, like it's hard. So when she comes back and she's like, oh yeah, he betrayed. Oh, guess what? A member of the Taliban betrayed her. Like we didn't think of this before now.
Yeah.
So,
You think does he feel like vindicated that this man who his wife fell in love with kind of betrayed them all in sort of like I told you I told you so kind of way?
there's no victory here. Like the victory is getting our daughter back and safe. Like the victory is like dismantling that institution, that organization. And so n- n- I guess maybe there is some catharticism or something like that, like of being able to say, because the rest of the time you can't talk bad about someone loves. Like people just aren't here to hear that, and so you have to hold that down a lot, unless all you want is a fight. And
Yeah.
so I guess that maybe there's a sense of being able to get that off his chest, of saying what he's been thinking. Is that like, do you think that being in love with someone who's part of the Taliban,
Yeah.
Gilead, is going to work out? Like Tinder profile,
Yeah.
member of Gilead for 10 years. You'll be swiping left.
Yeah, something tells me that it's probably not a great idea, but it's a complicated world out there.
It is. It is, and
It's
that's why I think they made such a great show, and it's a testament to Max Mingella, the actor, who is able to go and take that dude who's got like a member of Gilead on his Tinder profile, basically, and make it a really compelling person that you go, well, yeah, but you do want to be with him. Yeah, you understand the situations he's been through. You get it. Like, I just think what he's done with that character is incredible.
You actually, and you got a scene with him this season, which you haven't had in a long time. And it was kind of a brief moment, but like, what was that like being able to, actually share the screen with him for a little bit after this, all this time?
I mean, it's fun, it's fun because he I love that. Like, he's so smart and charming and interesting. I really love Max, and with Luke being able to be there with uh Nick, it just creates this great tension. It was a lot of fun to shoot that scene.
Now, audiences are quick to point to this show, as a dark reflection to the world we currently live in. But on the flip side of that, with this final season, how would you say that these episodes serve as more of a beacon of hope for audiences that feel that way instead of like a dour, look at this miserable world we live in?
Ultimately, like, we have to take the actions we can to create the world that we want to live in. And the earlier one takes those actions, the better. And this show and the book itself, I think, is an ode to resistance. And resistance isn't necessarily easy, and it doesn't mean you win every battle, and it doesn't mean you fight every battle. But to me, this show isn't about how everything's going to pot. It's a show about how when things are going to pot, that there are routes to fight, even when it feels like the odds are against you.
Luke, he makes a pointed note to June that these violent, rebel plans and actions are kind of now how he is able to fight for Hannah in his own way. Can you dive deeper into just how that drive has influenced your character this particular season?
I think always Luke has wanted to get his daughter back, but like I said, he doesn't have those tools. He doesn't have the tools that Nick has, the tools of violence, and he also doesn't have the tools of a state, and so that kind of leaves one powerless. But I think now over the years he's managed to gain some more of those tools and skills, and now he has, and also a kind of like, hey, it's liberty or death kind of mentality. I think that's very empowering, and he's like, he's using that to try and make a difference this
Yeah.
season.
I would take a quick second to pivot to another topic. You were in Black Widow, where you previously revealed that when you signed on, the role was bigger. And over the years, fans have convinced themselves through their own theorizing and piecing things together that you were maybe once going to be Taskmaster himself. So I just wanted to ask straight up, just to quell some of those thoughts. Is there any truth to that? Were you ever going to be Taskmaster?
So, I mean, I never know what the rules are with it, but whatever. We're way away from it now. But basically, I first auditioned for Taskmaster, and it was a really incredible speech. Actually, it was what I was the audition I was very proud of. I still got it in the back someplace, and he was this. I played him with an African accent, and he was this kind of maniacal like character. And somewhere along the journey of writing mean things above my pay grade, so I got basically got, but I was like down to like, oh, is it me? Is it someone else? Kind of thing for that version of Taskmaster. And in the various iterations of the movie, that version of Taskmaster went away. And then they just came to me and was like, "Hey, this is a guy called Mason. You want to play Mason?" And then I was like, "Well, I mean, look at it." And I looked at it. And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'd love to play this character." And so the Taskmaster that I was gonna be, didn't exist in
Yeah.
that iteration of Black Widow.
Well, that would have been a fun what if scenario there.
Oh man, I tell you, because I really the character I created for that was like something I've not done before, or not something people had seen me do before. I was be really hyped, but anyway, there'll be another opportunity for me to pull that maniac out of the bag and put him on screen.
Have you seen Thunderbolts yet?
You know what? Eric Pearson, who wrote it, is a dear friend of mine, and we've been back and forth in it about when I'm going to go see it, and I've got to send him my personal review. But he's a genius, so I'm sure it's going to be great. Have you seen it? Did you
I
like it?
have. No, I really, really liked it.
All right, I'll let him know.
So I highly recommend it. But maybe you'll get a chance to be Taskmaster again in the future. Who knows?
Oh
When do you
yeah.
think Mason, when is he gonna pop back up?
Listen, this is what I said to Eric. I said, "Will you leaving me at the Thunderbolts, man?" No, Well, I did come back. I did some Secret Invasion.
Yeah,
Mason appeared there, and so yeah, just you know what I mean, like a true superhero. When they give me the call,
you're ready to go. Now, jumping back to Handmaid's Tale, what do you feel is the most important part of the show's legacy, not only for audiences, but kind of pop culture as a whole?
I hark back like some of my favorite musicians. Like if I think about like Bob Marley or John Lennon or Marvin Gaye, these are people who like made great music and they spoke about politics. I mean, Marvin Gaye made a song about environmental, failure. Like it's like, and it's something that's kind of like I think we have less of in our culture now, which is like explicitly political or social political art, which is also pop and popular, as in popular. And so when I look back at some of the great shows that we've had over the last decade, 20 years, lots of them were great, but very few of them were explicitly political or social, had a social commentary. And I just hope like its legacy is about like, hey, we can do this and it can be great. We can talk about social issues, complex social, political issues, and we can make popular art, something that's like enjoyable, if you that's what you can call watching Handmaids to watch. And so yeah, that would be one of the things I would hope it leaves as a legacy.
With the final three episodes of the season or the show as a whole, what can you tease as vaguely as you can about how Luke's story will unfold? I know it's a tricky question because you're like, well, I don't know, it's right around the corner, but I gotta ask, how the show's gonna wrap up? What does it mean for Luke?
I mean, look, there are various questions, right? It's like, are we going to defeat Gilead? Are we going to get Hannah back? Is Luke and June going to end up together? And you get definitive answers to all of those, mostly.
Yeah, mostly. Now, another question which I don't know how you're going to be able to answer, but I had to ask about the Testaments because in the source material, your character is alive and well, and they're making this spin-off show actively. Might we see you pop up in that series and play a major role?
I'll say it's not impossible. One thing that is interesting to me is Chase Infinity, who plays the lead in the Testaments. She was in Presumed Innocent, which I was in on Apple, and so we friends on that. And now it's funny because we saw each other when we were out in Canada. I'm shooting out there another thing now, and I was like, "You're my daughter. Maybe I'll get to meet you."
Hey, I mean that sounds like a great foundation to start a new show on. So I think that you should show up in it. That's just my opinion, though, my humble opinion.
Your important, humble opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, when the show wraps up, what do you want, audiences to take away from that experience the most?
You know, I try not to get involved in the people's experience of art. Like that's just up to them. I think for me, because I get to experience the art as well. I get to read these screenplays, these great screenplays. I get to see these performances opposite me. And when I watch these performances, when I read these scripts, it makes me think, hey, look, is there something you can do this week to be involved in making like your community a little better, a little stronger? Are there things you can do to reach out to those who maybe are not as empowered to help? And some weeks I do better than others, and but I once read this guy Jonathan Safran Foer said, don't measure yourself from how far from perfect you are, measure yourself from how far from doing nothing you are. And so I just hope this show for me kind of makes me want to get further and further away from doing nothing.
Now, we we talk about the audience and what they're going to take away, but for you in that experience, what are you going to remember most?
Oh, that to me is almost very straightforward to me. That's not common. It's the artists I got to work with. These beautiful, brilliant, inspiring, charismatic people. Like it's it's my dream to work with people who are brilliant and also carry themselves with the grace and love and humility.
Now, last question for you. Shows is wrapping up, and so I have to ask, over these years, were there any like storylines or ideas with your character that were, ultimately cut and just didn't make it to the table that you would have been that you kind of think about and go, oh, that would have been interesting to see how that might have played out?
It's a good question, actually. There are a couple, but the first one that comes to my head was that at a point, Luke was gonna have like a semi-affair, not affair, like like a relationship with a lady, and there are a couple of times that's kind of bubbled to the surface. And to be honest, I've been resistant to it. I like Luke's dedication and monomaniacal focus on his family. So, but the decisions weren't made because of me. Trust me, they're making their own decisions. They're making their own decisions. But there are a couple of times where like little vestiges of those things. Yeah, if you looked really close, you could be like, oh, because those characters still existed. Those female characters still, there's two of them still exist in the show,
Oh, who
but
were they?
they
Can you say who they were?
they never explored. Um, there was a character. Now, forgive me, I don't remember her name, but basically, I think it's like season 3 or 4. I get a gun from someone, and that person was going to be one of Luke's love interests.
That would have been very interesting.
Yeah,
Especially watching this season, that scene where you and June are just kind of like, we should leave each other, but we're not going to. Which
yeah,
is a very, it's a
yeah.
powerful moment for that. It's a very complicated relationship, obviously, for so many reasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I don't know. My personal perspective is just like you can't break them up. They're bonded. They're bonded by even if they don't see each other. They're bonded people, and so
Well, sir, thank you so much for talking to me today about the show. I look forward to seeing how it all wraps up. And I hope one day you get back to the MCU. I got to see more of you there.
yeah, let's get it done.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun talking with you, Russ.